annual webinar. I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items before we get into the content for today's session. On the right hand of your screen is the GoToWebinar control panel where you can ask questions and select your audio mode. And you are all currently on mute, so we don't have any background noise as we go through the presentation. At the end of the presentation, we have 20 minutes as a question period. You can submit your questions and comments by typing in the questions panel throughout the presentation, and we'll do our best to answer all of your questions at the very end. If we can't get to all of your questions today, we will circulate along with a link to the recording of today's webinar, a Q&A document that recaps the questions that we can't get to. Again, today's presentation is being recorded and it will be available on rbc.com/learn-to-play and in the program section on participation.com on Monday, March 14th. So it's Wafa Kadri, and I am the Director of Corporate Donations at RBC, and I have a number of guests that are going to be presenting with me today, and I'd just like to quickly introduce them. Anne Warner, who's our Senior Manager of Impact Measurement and Evaluation with Team RBC. Anne-Marie Hospod, who is the project lead at Participation, major partner on the project with us. Eugene Todd, a community mentor, Canadian Sport for Life, and Nathan Hansberger, project manager from the Propel Center for Population Health Impact. Thank you so much to the Learn to Play project team for taking time to come and do the presentation with us today. Just going to quickly go through the presentation agenda. Welcome, and which we've just done, and the RBC Learn to Play project overview. What is physical literacy? Because at the core of this project is physical literacy and improving the physical literacy of our kids. I'm going to quickly do an overview of the granting program, evaluation and reporting, and then open it up for questions at the end. So in just as a backdrop, in October 2013, we announced a 5-year, $100 million commitment to improve the well-being of 1 million kids and youth across Canada. And the pledge was really intended to improve the emotional, physical, and intellectual well-being of children and youth through investments in a wide range of national and community-based organizations, as well as through some of our company's own programming. So we launched the project in 2014, the RBC Learn to Play project, to bring focus to our approach on helping to be able to develop the physical well-being of Canada's children and youth. Now, there's no myth that there's a current inactivity crisis in Canada. Only 5% of our children and youth are meeting the physical activity guidelines, and that sport participation rates are on the decline, and that kids are spending a lot more time on screens as their parents are at work. So Canada is definitely experiencing a physical and activity crisis. And we also know that there's a positive correlation between physical literacy and improving physical literacy and physical activity. So RBC, along with many partners, came together in order to design the RBC Learn to Play project to tackle this issue head-on. Our product vision is to provide kids with the right start in sport and enable them to play and become more healthy and active for life. Children need to learn the fundamental movement skills to develop their confidence, and their motivation, to participate in sport and physical activity, and to be active for life. Just like the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, the fundamental movement skills are just as important. So our project is a 3-year multifaceted and sector approach commitment, engaging all of our resources, dedicated to incorporating physical literacy into youth sport and recreation programs with the goal of helping more kids to get out, play, and be active. So at the center of our project is a charitable commitment to support organizations like yours to deliver quality sport and recreation programming to children and youth. RBC Learn to Play, which funding is provided by RBC and the Public Health Agency of Canada and a significant partner of ours, Participation. We're committed to distributing more than $5 million over the course of the 3 years in programs and community grants up to $25,000 each to help support those programs and initiatives that are going to be able to actually increase participation levels in the quality of programming. In 2014 alone, $1.6 million was awarded to 187 organizations. 2015, just slightly over $2 million awarded to 199 organizations, and in 2016, we're pleased to share with you that we will be awarding more than $2 million to organizations across Canada. Now, we also know that turning the corner on this issue is not something that we can do on our own, and that's why it takes many partners with different areas of expertise coming together to reverse these stats and to help to deliver on the program's objectives and vision. We're honored and proud to say that our partners include some of the greatest minds and advocates for the cause. We have the Public Health Agency of Canada, Canadian Sport for Life, Propel Centre, Population Health Impact, and Participation working with us on this project. So what makes our Learn to Play different and unique? Well, the project aims to move from being transactional to transformational in its approach, and it goes beyond the dollars to move the needle. By engaging the sector, building their capacity, and providing support both in terms of program development and evaluation, to all of our grant recipients, we endeavor to make kids more physically literate and active and to achieve our goal. Now I'm going to turn it over to Anne-Marie from Participation to lead us through the next section, and then over to our other partners to deliver the rest of the content.
Great, thank you so much, Wafa. So first off, I just want to welcome everyone to the webinar, and thanks for taking the time to learn more about this great granting opportunity. We are very grateful for the support from both RBC and from the Public Health Agency of Canada in this Learn to Play program. It's a phenomenal program. We've seen firsthand a lot of the positive impact that has occurred in the last 2 years of programming, and we definitely look forward to looking through, hopefully, many of your great applications in the next few months. So Participation, who are we, and what's our role in this project? Some of you may be familiar with our work, others may not. We are a national nonprofit organization, and we help Canadians sit less and move more through innovative engagement initiatives like this one, and also through thought leadership. We've actually been around for quite some time. Some of you may remember us back in the 70s and 80s. We originally were established in 1971, and we really do place our efforts in working really closely with different stakeholders, with public, private, not-for-profit sector as well, to really encourage, like I mentioned, Canadians to increase their daily physical activity. Our role specifically in this project, like Wafa mentioned, is to manage the implementation of the granting program, and we also want to make sure that we are working at delivering the right supports, whether that be the evaluation supports, the capacity building supports, or just the support to implement a program on the ground, that we're making sure that those supports are available to you should you be successful in your grant application. To really ensure that success at delivering quality physical literacy programming. Now, Wafa touched on the importance of physical literacy and how it impacts physical activity. Luckily, we have an expert from Sport for Life, Eugene Todd, who will describe in more detail what exactly is physical literacy and why does it matter.
Thanks, Anne-Marie, and welcome to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about this very, very important program. A little bit of repetition in this slide, but a little repetition in my presentation, but that's important for you to understand the whole concept of RBC Learn to Play. RBC Learn to Play has provided communities with opportunities to develop programs that greatly enhance children's opportunities to be active and healthy through physical activity. Submissions for the RBC Learn to Play program in the past have illustrated that they help develop the tools children need as they start their lifelong journey called physical literacy. RBC is truly committed to supporting their grant recipients with more than just a check. Learn to Play has moved, as Wafa indicated a couple of minutes ago, has moved from transactional granting to transformational granting. That includes support and guidance to accelerate the success of grant recipients. This has made a huge impact on the advance of physical literacy across the country, which I guess I would also add that we have a long ways to go, but we have made big inroads in regards to physical literacy across Canada. Move on. The several definitions for physical literacy exist, but the one on the slide that you see in front of you now is intended to capture some key components of physical literacy. You'll see that there's a strong focus on motivation, on confidence, motivation and desire. I would add motivation creates desire. Confidence and confidence is critical to ensure the journey is ongoing and continuous. Although the use of the term is increasing, it is important to understand how physical literacy differs from, or is a gateway to, physical literacy, physical activity, and fitness. Physical literacy is more than fundamental movement skills. Just like we develop vocabulary to read and write, again, as Wafa indicated in her opening comments, it's also important as we understand the use of numbers. We must also develop a vocabulary around movement. One of the goals to Learn to Play is to bring physical literacy on equal footing with literacy and numeracy, as these are all crucial components of a healthy, happy life. One of the first steps that I would challenge each and every one of you on this call to do is become a physical literacy champion and to share the concept with your team and stakeholders and those people that you are most involved with, even in your personal life. As you plan your Learn to Play project, please consider incorporating the ideas of collaboration and partnerships, quality programming, and significant leadership development, all of which should be outlined in your application when it's completed. Put the slide, please. RBC Learn to Play grantee support, community mentors. If you have the opportunity to receive an RBC Learn to Play grant in either the leadership stream or the community stream, which you'll hear about shortly, your journey in implementing the grant will not be done in isolation. Each successful grantee in the leadership stream will be assigned a mentor. A resource person will interact with you on a regular basis if you are in the leadership stream. They will address your questions directly or will call on a network of expertise who will be able to suggest ideas, alternatives, and potential action to anything pertaining to your grant. This is in the leadership stream. The mentors represent a broad range of sport, recreation, and health, and they can help you deliver your program with success. That doesn't mean that the community stream grantees will be left out in the cold. If there's any chance or any opportunity for you to contact a mentor, and you'll be given all that information, the mentors encourage you to give us a call, and we can try to help you through your concerns. The mentors can also assist with physical literacy training, leadership development, and administrative advice to both leadership and community grantees. Over the time that I've been involved in mentors, and I get stories from my fellow mentors throughout the process, we encounter all sorts of questions. And most of them, quite frankly, are related to their grant and how their programs are going and that type of thing. But because of the level of expertise that exists amongst the mentors, we answer questions outside what we do. For example, a year ago when I was working with a leadership grant recipient, I was asked about if I had any knowledge about trail development, because part of their grant was to mobilize classes on a education system outside, interpretive type trail system, but they didn't know how to wayfind, they didn't know how to create trail structure, physical trail structure, And based on my past experiences, I was able to put them in touch with people that could help them with that. And these are the kinds of things that community mentors can provide to RBC Learn to Play grantees. That's basically my spiel, and we are always open to any discussions before, during, or after you receive your grantee. I will pass it on to Anne-Marie now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Eugene. So now I'm going to talk about the granting program, what I'm sure many of you are waiting to hear about. Before I go into the details, I just want to give you a quick overview of the timeline. We will have a slide further on in the deck with the specifics on the timeline, but just to give you a sense now as I go through the details of the program. So the application itself will open on March 14th, and it will be open until May 9th. We're going to be reviewing the applications that come in the summer. You'll find out whether or not you've been successful at receiving a grant at the end of the summer, August, September. And then you'll have a year to complete your programming, and then the completion of the reports will be due in the fall. So you're looking at completing your applications in the spring, finding out whether you've been successful in early fall 2016, and then have 12 months to complete your actual application. In terms of the types of granting programs, in terms of the types of actual programs, so there's a community and a leadership grant opportunity. You can apply to either one. The information is all online, as I think Wafa mentioned at the beginning. The address is one to bookmark, rbc.com/learn to play, where you'll have all the information. But you have the community grants, which range from $1,000 to $10,000, and the leadership grants are between $10,000 and $25,000. On this slide, what I really just want to point out is that you can be either a not-for-profit organization, you can be a CRA registered charity, you can also be a CRA qualified donee to apply. You do have to be based in Canada, and if you are requesting over $5,000 in support from the granting program, we do ask for audited financial statements. So now a bit more detail about the actual grant. So what is a community grant? Like I mentioned, they range between $1,000 and $10,000. Community action grants are really learn to grants. It's about teaching kids new skills, new sports that take into consideration, of course, physical literacy skills. But that can be anything from, learning to run, learning to jump, learning to swim, learning to skate. You name it. We want you to be creative. We want you to develop a program that works for your community, and one that really, takes advantage of your expertise or your community's expertise and interest. An example that we have here in terms of a community grant that has been successful in the past is from the town of Milton. They were awarded a $10,000 grant to support their Move More sports program. It targets children at 3 different stages of the Canadian Sports for Life long-term athlete development model. If you're not familiar with the LTAD model, I would definitely suggest reading up on it, looking at the Canadian Sports for Life website, and of course, if you do need support, if you have any questions throughout the process, like Eugene mentioned, we are here and happy to help you through that process. The town of Milton ran their program for 30 weeks. Like I mentioned, you do have a year to complete the programming. You can, of course, continue onwards. We would love to have programs that are sustainable and don't only last for 1 year. We would love to see them continue on in the future as well. One last point about their example is they had training in place, and I'll speak to that in a second in terms of what do we look for in a quality application. But any sort of leadership opportunities, any training and workshops that can train your staff or your volunteers is really something that we appreciate and that we look forward to including in successful programs. In terms of leadership grants, so leadership grants range between $10,000 and $25,000. Leadership grants are really about developing and implementing sustainable action plans. So here, it's not so much a Learn To grant. It's more about looking at building capacity in your community, really creating a positive impact within your community. And how do you do that? we really focus on, and Eugene touched on it, WAFA did as well, we really focus on building partnerships. Think about who you have in your community who might want to work with you. It might be a sector that you're not too close with. If you're in education, maybe reach out to recreation. If you're in recreation, maybe reach out to public health, etc. And so what makes a successful leadership grant is one that, of course, implements a quality program, but also takes into account cross-sector partnerships and as well leadership development opportunities. For the example, I think I'll ask Eugene, since he's more familiar with this one, maybe Eugene, you could give us some detail on the Boys and Girls Club.
Sure. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Yeah, this is as Anne-Marie indicated, I mean, the project under the leadership stream is a little bit more comprehensive and a little bit more embracive as far as trying to develop collaborations. In this particular project, you have approximately 18 different municipalities, small and medium-sized municipalities, who have come together and are targeting the 3 activities that you see listed on the screen: a general summit, some targeted workshops around training, which include fundamental movement skills, which could include physical literacy 101, it could include high five training, it could include any number of things that are related to physical literacy. As well as a key component will be the education awareness within community leaders. Now, it's a large geographic area. It says Kawartha Lakes on it, but it actually includes the city of Kawartha Lakes, the city of Peterborough, the county of Peterborough, and Northumberland County. So it stretches quite a ways from Lake Ontario all the way down, or up to, from Kawartha Lakes down to Lake Ontario, and it covers a large area. The collaborations that were developed for this project are immense, and it covered all those sectors I talked about, ranging from sport, recreation, education, health, even some social services. And without this particular grant, this group probably could not have formed a collaboration, and I think that's probably the key thing. They have a lot of work, and they work very hard at getting ready for their summit, and also targeting those specific workshops that they want to build champions from and carry on certainly past RBC Learn to Play and on into the future, because as has been said on practically every slide or every presenter, we really need to develop physical activity within our communities, and this project will do that.
Great, thank you, Eugene. Thank you. So just kind of touching back on eligibility, like I mentioned, you need to be based in Canada. You need to have audited financial statements if you're applying for more than $5,000. But more specifically, who's eligible to apply? You have here a list of those who are eligible and those who are not eligible. We really do look forward to receiving and reviewing applications from a really varied population, as you can see here. Whether it be a local sports club, whether it be a municipal park, community centers, schools, groups that deliver, sport and recreation and physical activity to, an Aboriginal population or to an inclusive population. We really do want to see that variety in the applications, and so we encourage you all to apply. The other thing, like I mentioned, is really leveraging the expertise and the resources that are available in your community. If you have a fantastic idea, but you don't think that you actually have the capacity or the resources to carry out a program, then reach out to someone that might, to an organization, to a club that can support you in the implementation of the program. Now I just want to spend a few minutes looking at, if you are successful in receiving a grant, where can the money actually go? And it's important to touch on it now, since when you will be doing your application, there is a section about budgeting. We want to make sure that we're reaching as many kids as possible and that the programs are accessible to as many kids and youth as possible. So what can funds support? Some of the things that you can use the funds for are listed here. Equipment is one thing that I want to specifically talk about. You can, for instance, have the funds support actual equipment for the delivery of a program. So if the equipment is essential to the successful creation and the delivery of the program and is directly relevant to the sport or the activity being undertaken, then that's okay. However, as an example here, a fund cannot support the installation of a football post. We really want to encourage that the skills and the training be happening with the funds that are received. And so, soccer balls, for instance, to get kids to learn how to kick would be a great example, to kick or to run. Another example would be instruction. You can, for instance, have the expert coaching or instruction provided to staff be covered by the granting program. You can fund also training and education. I touched on it before, but in terms of leadership development opportunities, whether it be High 5 certification or the NCCP fundamental movement skills training, you can be eligible to cover the cost of the staff or the volunteers that will be receiving the relevant education through those, whether it be workshops or courses or training opportunities. The other thing here that we have, like I mentioned, is cost of inclusion. I think when you're looking at developing a quality application, we really do stress the reach and the cost of participation. You want to reach as many children as you can. We look at whether or not you're working with partners in your community. We look at, of course, whether or not you're incorporating key elements of physical literacy, right? And if you're not familiar with the details of physical literacy, if Eugene kind of gave you a nice overview, but you want to learn more, then definitely, again, you can go online, you can reach out to us, and we're all happy to help you through the process. Now, the next piece that is quite important, and hopefully Nathan from Propel and Ann Warner from will give you a nice overview of the evaluation, is just that, the evaluation of Learn to Play. So I'll pass it over to Nathan to start us off and give you a sense of why evaluation matters.
Hello, this is Nathan from Propel Center for Population Health Impact at the University of Waterloo. Just want to start by saying that we really all want to help you make the most of your evaluation activities. So the team developed a number of tools and supports to help you along the way. So I'll provide an overview of the evaluation and evaluation components. Then I'll pass it on to Ann at RBC to provide you with some specific evaluation-related instructions for your application. So listed here are the top 4 reasons why to evaluate. And at the core, it's really about building capacity as well as tracking and communicating impacts. We feel that evaluation is an integral part of building capacity in the sector, and it's our goal to give you the tools and supports that you need to evaluate your program. So specifically, we want to help you to identify strengths and weaknesses of your program and also better position your organization to communicate your impact. It's also important to remember that RBC Foundation grantees are part of a network of Canadian nonprofits and charities doing work across Canada. And RBC uses the evaluation data to track and communicate the impact of its citizenship programs on Canadian communities. Similarly, the Public Health Agency of Canada also supports this project and uses the evaluation data to understand their contributions. Next slide. So listed here are the evaluation components of the RBC Learn to Play project. The application really marks the beginning of the evaluation process, where you'll provide us information that tells us about your current status and what you hope to achieve. And then if you're successful, you'll then proceed with tracking what you do and then reporting your results. Part of this will be using supplementary tools to measure the impacts on your community in general, impacts of people trained in physical literacy, and or impacts on people participating in your program. More evaluations will be provided to successful applicants in the fall. As mentioned, we really want to help to support you in learning through this process. We give each grantee an individualized survey report with their own results, as well as an overall report of the entire RBC Learn to Play project. You can use these reports as well as any other information you collect about your project to help you plan for the future, as well as know about and provide proof of your impacts. I'll now pass it on to Ann at RBC to give you the specific instructions that you'll need for the application process.
Thank you, Nathan. Hi, everybody. So as Nathan said, I'll be talking specifically about your SmartSimple application And before getting into that, we want to give you an overall sense of our SmartSimple reporting process. So the first part of this is your application, and you will be selecting indicators to report back on in your application. And if you're successful in your granting, then you move on to the data collection phase, and then finally the year-end report where you will report back on the indicators you selected in the application. So in our impact measures and reporting section on SmartSimple, we have 4 sections. We have goals impacting children and youth, and these indicators have been developed specifically for Learn to Play. The other 3 sections are indicators that we use across all of RBC Foundation projects. So those are more general. Next slide. This is a screenshot of what you will see on SmartSimple when you open up your application. So you want to go into the impact measures and reporting section, which is indicated by the red arrow. And next slide. Once you click on the impact measures and reporting section, the indicators will populate. So what you see right now are the indicators for the goals impacting children and youth section. These are all already ticked off because they are mandatory. For 2 of the sections, there are 2 mandatory sections, and the other 2 sections, you will be asked to select 2 out of the list of indicators that we have provided. Once you click on the Open tab indicated by the red arrow, the chart on the bottom of your slide will appear. And in that chart, you want to fill out your goal quantity unit description and your baseline quantity unit description for each of the indicators. Now, when we ask for your goal, really what we're asking you is to think about what you want to achieve in your program. So it's really a benchmark for you to decide what you want to achieve. The baseline is determined by what exists before the program starts. And to help you further understand that, we'll go through an example next. So here's an example of one of the indicators. This is an indicator that is mandatory for Learn to Play applicants and recipients, and it is number of children who pass the standardized level in their program. So you'll see on the left-hand side, there are 3 stages of the SmartSimple reporting process. Right now, you just have to worry about the application phase. If you're successful, you'll move on to the data collection and year-end reporting phase. So for this, let's say this project is a judo program, and they've set out a goal for a certain number of children who participate in the program to pass their yellow belt. So the goal quantity they put in is 50, and the goal units is the number of children and youth. In the goal description, they describe that they want 50 out of the 55 children in the program to pass their yellow belt. When you go to the baseline, because the program hasn't started yet, the baseline quantity is 0. So no children and youth have participated in the program, and then they've described that in the baseline description. And again, if you're successful in the grant, you will be reporting back on all of the indicators you've selected in your application, and you'll be tracking those results throughout the program and report that in your year-end report. And next slide, please. Finally, we have developed resources to help you fill out this impact measures and reporting section on the application. And you can find these in the additional resources section on SmartSimple, and this is indicated in the screenshot by the red arrow. We strongly encourage you to use these resources. Included in this section, there is an evaluation guidebook that we have provided, and it gives you a step-by-step overview of how to fill out this section. In addition, within the guidebook, in Appendix C, and also separately, we have provided a list of indicators that are on SmartSimple and included the units that we suggest for each of the indicators. And we ask that you take a look at that list, and in the goal unit and baseline unit sections, you input the unit that has been indicated on this list. And that concludes our evaluation section. If you are successful, there will be further information in the fall, as Nathan said, and I will pass it over to Wafa to close.
Well, thank you, everybody, for your contribution to today's presentation, I just wanted to go over some key dates, and then we're going to open it up. Some key dates, some resources, and then we'll open it up for questions. So again, just reiterating that the grant application opens on March 14th, 2016. Grant application closes on May 9th. We will engage in review and selection process from May to August, just so that there's an understanding of, like today we have more than 500 participants on the call with us today. Last year we received more than 500 applications, so there's going to be a lot of applications for us to review. But it's very exciting. You know, to us it is a testament to the grant program and how much it's needed, but also and it's also a very difficult selection process for us because we do see a lot of quality applications. Late August, you will know whether you have been successful or not. We will communicate to all applicants that submitted an application for our consideration. It is expected that your program will end by September 30th of the following year, and that your report is due back to us to report back the results of your programming by October 31st of the following year. Just a gentle reminder that if you are applying for a 2016 grant, your program needs to be delivered between September of 2016 and September of 2017. So just wanted to bring that point of clarity forward. And we do have places where you can go if you want to access resources and if you have questions. Please submit your questions to learntoplay@rbc.com as you walk through your application. We have somebody monitor that inbox on a daily basis. If you are having any technical issues with the grant application system that would launch off of RBC Learn to Play site, we have a phone number here for you and an email address, and SmartSimple, who is our service provider, can assist you. And we wish you the best of luck in your application process. So I'm just going to open it up for questions now. And if you want to, please type in your questions, again, just as a gentle reminder, in the questions text box. And we will answer them. And again, whatever questions we can't get to today, we will capture and circulate with the recording instructions on Monday.
So we do have some questions that have been coming through. There's quite a number of questions around eligibility. So are universities eligible? Are public health units eligible? Are municipalities eligible? What if you're a non-profit versus a charity? So I think if we could talk a little bit about who's eligible for which types of grants, again, I think that would answer a number of questions at once.
Certainly. So in terms of eligibility, not-for-profit organizations, registered charities, and who is deemed to be a qualified donee are eligible for community grants. You must be a registered charity or a CRA qualified donee to apply for a leadership grant. And qualified donees are municipalities. They could be an athletic organization. And we'll have that also outlined on our website, but anybody that is a registered charity can apply, all right? So doesn't matter if you're a university, doesn't matter if you are a school. Schools are typically linked in with their school boards, so they typically have registered charity numbers, and that they would be able to apply through that registered charity number.
Okay, there's another question that's from an NSO, wondering if the leadership grants need to be community focused or if they could be national focused.
So, if you are a national NSO,
apply to provincial to the same concept. If you're provincial, can you be province-wide, or does it have to be community?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you submit your application, there is a question that asks about the area that, or I guess the where you'll have an impact, and there is a national category. So if your intention is to have national reach and national impact with your project, then you can certainly enter into the national category, and we would review it through a national lens, and or regional or very local community impact. So we've actually awarded grants at all 3 levels over the course of the last 2 years.
Yeah, so there's also questions around if they've received funding in the past, can they apply in the future? And I know that depends on whether they've completed reporting or not. So if you could speak to that briefly, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we do welcome applications from organizations or programs that have received funding from the RBC Learn to Play grant program in the past. The only thing that is a mandatory requirement is that your reporting has been submitted for us to see the results of our previous grant that was awarded. So if you have done that by the time that you apply, then we can certainly consider you for another year of support.
Another question relates to how we define children and youth for this project.
So the preferred age group for your programming to be targeting is 6 to 12. However, we will consider programs that are in the earlier years, and we will consider programs for teenagers. And a good example would be is that if you have a group of you Canadians that are all aged 13 to 17 and they've never skated before, and you're teaching them how to skate, that's a great project for us to fund, right? So we would certainly give consideration to that. So preferred 6 to 12, but we'll consider younger age groups, and we'll consider older age groups if it's working to include particular populations that maybe wouldn't typically be included.
There's another question that relates to that, a similar question. So somebody's wondering if they have a program for kids with physical disabilities, would it be considered because the numbers are lower because they're higher need, would that still be considered, or does it have to be larger programs?
No, certainly. I think that's another thing that we need to take into consideration as we're reviewing our applications. It's not so much the fact that you're reaching 400 kids or 200 kids or 100 kids. It's the quality of the programming, and that you're in fact designing programming that is going to be relevant and of quality and meaningful to your to the people that you have in your program. So reach is important. We obviously don't want to be, we want to be careful around that sort of per participant cost, but quality is critical, and making sure again that you're tailoring your program to meet the audience's needs.
So here's a great question, and this might be a good one for Eugene. Is there an opportunity for our organization to connect with previous grant recipients?
Yes, there is. I think that we can provide some information about if you call someone on RBC or Sport for Life, and we can direct people to specific areas. Like if you're in Ontario, we can identify what grants were here and partner you with someone there. Or if you're in any part of the country, Saskatchewan or New Brunswick, wherever, we can do the same thing and indicate where there was RBC grantees in previous years. That's pretty easy to do.
Here's another one for you, Eugene, right up your alley. Is there an opportunity for one-on-one conversations about a specific project to ensure it fits with the objectives?
We want to help any way we can to help with the applications, and that is something that we do throughout the year. We had a request in Alberta a couple of days ago where someone was drafting some ideas around RBC, and we were very quick to respond to that. They can be done through the email address that I put on the third slide that I presented. It's communities@canadiansportforlife.ca, and any inquiries like that, and in the previous question as well, we can address them for you. Sure.
And there's questions around who do you contact to find out about training programs that they may be able to access, such as high five training or fundamental movement skills?
Sure, and again, that email address is a good starting point, and certainly when you get the information from today, my email address will be on there somewhere, I'm sure. You could give me a direct email, and we could point you in the right direction. And you know what? The Sport for Life Society website is Canadian Sport for Life, whichever way you want to call it. It is very informative along those lines as well. You can just Google Canadian Sport for Life, and a whole pile of resources come up along that line as far as training and what training is available, all the way from, like I said, PL 101, fundamental movement skills, to high five and countless others as well.
There's a number of questions around audited financial statements, and if you can apply for leadership grants if you're a nonprofit, how much can you apply for if you don't have audited statements? So, I mean, the maximum you can apply for without the audited statements is $5,000, but in terms of the leadership grants that a lot of people are looking for, that there is the opportunity to partner, and we encourage partnerships. So the key is that the lead applicant has to have charitable status or be a qualified donee, but that doesn't mean that other partners within the project need to all be charitable organizations. So there is opportunities to still apply if you have a great concept and a great need, but partnership may be required. People are wondering if this deck will be available after the presentation, and it will be emailed out as a link, as well as available on the website.
And to that, I'm just going to add one note, because I had a question that came in into my email. For anyone that works with a special needs population, there was a sports organization that serves children that are deaf. We will also transcribe the webinar and have that available when it gets sent out.
Okay. There's a question around whether the program would qualify for funding if it's part of a research project. And I'm not sure about that. We might need to find out more information about the project, so that might be one to email at Learn to Play.
Yeah, it would probably follow up on that one, but we typically will not fund research because there is a significant research component to the RBC Learn to Play project already. But if it is research that is required in order to be able to deliver the program, and it's a small component of the grant, then maybe we would consider it.
So can you apply to both streams if they apply to different programs?
So my recommendation is that you choose one stream, because you won't, just based on the volume of applications that we receive, and I wish we could fund every single applicant that came through, but we will make a decision on only providing you with one grant under one of the streams. So we do ask that you think that through, and if it's a community grant, Learn to programming that is more critical in your community, then please apply under that stream. And if it is a leadership grant and you coming together as a consortium to change the way in which sport is being designed and delivered in your community, then please do that if it's a priority. But we won't fund through two separate streams to one organization.
And there's quite a few questions around being able to apply if you've already received funding from RBC. Can you apply for the same thing year after year? Does it have to be a new program, or can you apply for an existing program that needs additional resources? So I guess it's more than one question, but I know you can handle it well.
I can. So if you are currently receiving funding from RBC for a project or program, through our foundation, then you cannot apply for another donation. However, if you have received funding from us in the past and would prefer for a physical literacy project to be funded in the current year, you can certainly do that instead and in lieu of what you've been receiving funding for in the past. Some of our grant applicants will join a group around a leadership grant, and that's completely okay. They just can't be the lead applicant because we're already in a funding relationship with the organization. And in terms of being able to receive a renewed grant, you know, this is a one-year grant. We'll certainly look at the results of your program this year and then make considerations from there.
So there's been a couple questions around whether the grant will cover 100% of the project, or are there expectations of the organization also providing financial support?
So RBC's preference is to fund 50% of your project, and for the calculation to not exceed 50%. And there is a reason for that. Is we definitely don't want to have 100% of it funded by RBC. And that's from a sustainability perspective. That's also, you know, if you are going to be delivering the program, you want to ensure that it can continue beyond our funding. So, and then also it's a good partnership model for you to have more than one organization at the table. So it is something that is stated in the budget section of the application form, is that RBC will fund up to 50% of your project costs. Now, if it needs to go slightly over, obviously, that's fine. But the probability of you receiving funding, if it's 100% ask, we wouldn't consider it.
And then there's a couple of questions related to sort of the timelines of the project, when approvals would be and when the project would need to take place. So the application being open next week, the application being due in May, being informed in August, so that the project would start September of 2016. It would finish September of 2017 with reporting due, I don't know if we've set the date. October
31st.
End of October.
That's correct. So because you have to capture your data during that period of time. So you have to implement your programming during that time. Now, some programming might already be going, and then you're going to be, you know, injecting these additional sources of funds into current programming, which is fine. You just have to be able to say that, you know, on X date, and if the program is running all year, you've got a set period for your data collection. But if you are applying, I'm going to use an example because we have learned from the first couple of years, is that if you're applying for a grant in May and you're planning to deliver your program in July, you can't receive your funds in September and then make it retroactive, because you will have lost the opportunity to be able to collect your data and to be able to report. So it would be receiving your grant and then applying it the following July. Okay? So program has to be delivered between September of 2016 and September of 2017.
Yeah, here's a question for Nathan, or it could also be for Anne. When would a successful applicant have access to their own evaluation report?
You can take that, Nathan.
Sure. So the evaluation report, that's related to the supplementary tool, so it's a set of surveys. So as soon as you're done collecting data through the surveys, and usually we recommend a week after you send out your surveys, just to make sure that people have enough time to complete the surveys. You can email us and ask for a report, and we can generate it kind of as you need it, or otherwise we'll just generate the report at the end of the grant cycle and send it to you.
Okay, I think I'm just going to take the opportunity to ask Eugene. I know you wanted to mention a few words on knowledge exchange events in Canada.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Just to give everyone on the call a little bit of knowledge, information about some knowledge exchanges that are being conducted. Well, unfortunately, a couple of them already happened. Knowledge exchanges are facilitated workshop type situations where we go into a little more depth as far as RBC, learn to play, physical literacy, and how the two meet. Without taking a lot of time to explain exactly what they're about, the intent is to help you through the application process, to help you better understand physical literacy and the role it plays in the program itself. And it's also an opportunity to network with people probably within your geographic area that can help with your project should you ever get some funding to do physical literacy type things. There's 6 of them that are planned. 2 of them unfortunately have already happened, one in Regina and one in northern Canada. It was a webinar in actual fact. But there are still 4 remaining, so if you're in any of these areas and you would like to participate, all you need to do is get a hold of me and I can put you in touch with the right people. There's one March 16th in St. John's, Newfoundland. There's one March 18th in Moncton, New Brunswick. There's one on March 22nd in Markham, Ontario, and there's one on March 23rd in Ottawa, Ontario. If you want any more information about them and a little bit more information about what the content is all about, certainly give me a shout via email following this webinar.
Yeah, and Eugene, will the information be posted also on your website?
I think it is, but this is just something I just thought was very important for the group to have, and I quickly went on and tried to find the link, but I believe we chatted the other day that we needed to put those dates on the link. Okay. But if not, I will certainly provide them to us when we can report back to everybody on the webinar. Oh,
excellent. Okay.
Okay, so I think we have time for one last question.
So there's a question here that says, in the past we've partnered with a local school that serves a religious minority group. They would love to have more programs, and a lot of the kids would be new immigrants, but not all. Many would be. How would the RBC grant committee view this type of application?
So if any of the programming has religious content, then this is not something that we could consider. It's actually on the not eligible list. So if it is a religious institution that delivers religious content as a part of their programming, then it is ineligible for RBC support. So,
but if it's a school that's delivering to a religious minority group, but it doesn't relate to, it relates to the physical literacy and not to the content, is that?
Which is, as long as there is no religious content as a part of the delivery of the programming. Okay. Well, I think that we might have a couple of questions that we didn't get to, and we're happy to recap those into a summary and to provide answers. Just a reminder that we will follow with a link to the webinar recording on Monday to all participants. It will also be on Participaction's website. It will also be on the RBC website. And the slides will also accompany the recording, and they will also accompany what is posted on both of the websites. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. You know, the team is here to support you through this process. We wish you the best of luck as you're walking through your application, and look forward to seeing all of your exciting ideas on paper and then having them brought to life once you hear back from us in August. Thanks so much.
And we will follow up with the Q&A just for some of the questions we weren't able to get to today.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.